Hey everybody, and welcome to What the Future Creativity. My name is Matt Carmichael, and I'm going to be your host today. I'm the editor of What the Future. We have a great issue in store. So there's always been a push and pull between old ways of being creative and new ways. Is photography art the same way painting is? Is point-and-shoot photography still photography? Is Photoshop real enough? Are CGI effects still real cinema? Roger Linn was a young guitarist who just wanted to be able to record his guitar riffs better. So he invented the drum machine, a third order impact of which was essentially all of 80s pop music. Legendary drummer for the band The Police, Stuart Copeland, interviewed Linn recently and said, "It's fair to say that to many drummers, Linn is Beelzebub himself. Enter generative AI." Apple and Samsung recently traded commercials playing off or inadvertently stoking the fears that AI tools will crush traditional forms of creative expression. The Apple spot was viewed by many creatives on many platforms as an affront. The very dystopia that the brand's landmark 1984 was supposed to be shattering with its thrown hammer. One way to think of creativity is a simple one. It's about mastering the tools available to get you the output you want. People still paint portraits, even though they could take a photograph much faster. And it's all okay. And these conversations are important to have because people overwhelmingly want to be creative in some part of their life or another. It's a pretty universal human value. Creativity as an idea is newer than you think. It's easy to think that cave dwellers were all like, well, hey, drawing animals on the wall is really creative. I'm just over here hunting and gathering food. But according to Samuel L. Franklin's The Cult of Creativity, summarized last year in The New Yorker, our fascination with creativity as an ideal only goes back to the decades following World War II. Franklin posits that creativity had two origins. One was in psychology, as researchers tried to measure creativity as a companion to the way that SAT tests measure intelligence. But the other was a business-driven desire to have creativity steering innovation and growth as a reaction to the company man ideal that was needed to power the nation through the Depression and a world war. Considering the future of creativity through that business lens, it's no wonder companies are freaking out about generative AI. Today, 78% of workers say they get to be creative in some ways at their job. On one hand, if AI can help everyone be a bit more creative than they would otherwise, by generating ideas and ready-made images and video, great. On the other hand, will there be a level of sameness and a derivative quality that dilutes creativity? Could generative AI lead to outputs that are less creative in the future? Not that derivative can't also be creative. Take the huge popularity of stories people write in existing creative universes, such as Harry Potter fanfiction. I reached out to Claudia Rabaza from the Organization for Transworks, a nonprofit that hosts the fanfic site, The Archive of Our Own. She said, "The history of fan work counters the image of a lone author producing work entirely on their own and releasing a finished, polished work." She continued, "AI is a contentious issue in fandom. There's no way we can say what fan creators as a whole, or even those on our platform, think about AI and how it may be affecting fan works. There's always a risk in assuming that the most outspoken people represent the larger group. But it would seem the opinion is much more negative than positive," she said. Yeah, but who cares? That's the billion-dollar question, right? If people can use AI to make an image or movie or song or a magazine that people want to enjoy, what difference does it make how it was made? A lot of content on social media isn't what you would describe as professional or polished, but people still watch and people still scroll. Fanfic is original in a sense, but also not in that it uses someone else's characters and settings just with novel storylines. And yet remixes are undeniably creative. They're fandoms for everything you can imagine, a lot of things you can't. Would an AI have thought to set an erotic story blending Lou Reed lyrics in the world of Neal Stephenson's novel Seven Eves? Probably not, but author Not Here and did. And again, because people in their hobbies overwhelmingly want to be creative, these are good things for us all to think about. Fanfic's proliferation is just one tiny niche, and yet remix culture is so huge that McDonald's did an entire campaign and even flipped the logo on its bags, nodding to it. If you know, you know. And if you don't, well, you're probably really confused about what was going on. The dark side of AI creativity is that machines can create good as well as bad things. For instance, we're worried about disinformation, which is likely warranted as AI can create believable things at unbelievable scale. We'll talk more about that later. And the push and pull of technology hits the fanfic community too. On one hand, authors are mad that AI was trained on their works without any hint of compensation or credit or frankly mere permission. Today, anyone can turn a prompt into an image, video, or song, Anyone can write an introduction to WTF if you don't mind phrases such as, "The future of creativity is a conversation, a collaboration between human and machine, a journey into the unknown." Actually, that's not entirely terrible. History often hints at the future. In the past, tech disruptions led to more jobs being created than lost. There aren't nearly as many darkroom techs as there used to be, but there are plenty of people creating photography. The thing here is that AI is disrupting so many creative and less creative professionals, all at the same time. And that's the part that'll be hard to forecast. But just as there are few arguments about whether photography is creative anymore, so will discussion of is AI art likely fade. When we think of the key questions, there are practical as well as philosophical implications. For brands, the opportunity lie in helping people be creative, which is a nearly universal human value. There are also challenges in keeping brand voices authentic as marketing messages and disinformation proliferate. For creators, how do you break through and how do you make a living if that's your goal? For platforms, there are opportunities in curation. One estimate says that more than 300 million terabytes of data are created each day, and that's before all these tools even really take off. But for those of us who create, the crazy misfits who think they can change the world, the good news might just be that the more human involvement, the more premium the works will become in any genre or medium or sector. This is our summer blockbuster WTF. As always, we have some great futures thinking. We have data from our Future of Creativity study and a bonkers great panel. So let's dive in. We'll start with our shifts from Trevor Sedano. First, there's the creative revolution. The democratization of creative tools is revolutionizing the landscape of creativity. Affordable and accessible software for design, video editing, music production, and professional training, or expensive equipment. However, this shift also challenges traditional notions of authorship and IP, requiring new perspectives on copyright and compensation. Then we think about globalized culture. While the US's main export has traditionally been culture, recently there's been a rise in creative communities across the globe influencing and driving creativity. Bringing together diverse individuals who can share ideas and collaborate is fostering a rich exchange of creative perspectives. But watch out for accusations of cultural appropriation. Finally, shifts in immersive technology. The advent of augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality technologies has changed our expectations for creative experiences. By turning passive viewers into active participants, this can deepen emotional engagement and could further enhance collaboration globally, allowing creators to work together in virtual spaces. And now, onto the panel. Today we're talking to so many people with so many great perspectives on our topic of creativity. Starting with Victoria Equinoque, Marketing Inclusion Lead at Meta. We also have Daniel Lefcourt, a professor at the Rhode Island School of Design. Cheryl Lulian Tan, the George R.R. Martin Chair in Storytelling at Northwestern University's Medill School. Refik Anadol, Artist Extraordinaire. Stephanie Dinkins, Professor of Art at Stony Brook University. Alex Dow, Global Head of Agency Development and Sales Partnerships at Snap. And Bianca Gimarez, Partner and Executive Creative Director at Mischief. First up, Meta's Victoria Equinoque. She says she's not a techie, but she loves the magic of technology and its ability to connect people to ideas across cultures and borders. She believes that generative AI can democratize creativity and help amplify voices that go unheard. But Equinoque also sees the potential for AI to reinforce old biases, stifle craftsmanship, and spread disinformation. That's why she says it's critical to include the right people and to test, evaluate, and revise systems to ensure that these models are inclusive and useful for all. She told managing editor Kate MacArthur, "The old saying that your output is only as good as your input truly stands the test of time, and it is extremely relevant here." She says that creators will have the potential to create more engaging content that could better resonate with their audiences, who will then benefit by getting more tailored content. But, on the other hand, AI has the potential to stifle creativity and atrophy our skills. This, coupled with the need to make sure we have diverse voices represented, are some of the central tensions she sees in the development of these tools. She told Kate, quote, "We need to ensure we have the right people at the table to build this AI machine, which we know at the moment is not the case." Plenty of attention has gone to how artificial intelligence can help designers make more work faster. But to make the most of these tools, designers should explore how AI can help them better utilize human insights, not replace them. Innovation is often inspired by unmet needs, says Alison Heffernan, an SVP in Ipsos's innovation practice. That, by definition, requires listening to the perspectives of real people. But doing so at scale is easier said than done. Generative and analytical AI can bring both creativity and efficiency to the process. Ipsos trained its innovation AI models using actual consumer data from a diverse range of audiences, ensuring that the relevant and representative human inputs are woven into each AI output. AI platforms can process this information differently than a human analyst, meaning that they can identify additional opportunities for innovation. AI's capacity to save time and money is important, but as researchers should look to these tools not as a shortcut or workaround, but an opportunity to harness consumer data and develop ideas beyond what already exists. But what are the future creators? Well, what will art schools teach them? As a professor at RISD, Daniel Lefcourt teaches first-year students practical skills and critical thinking in courses influenced by everything from pre-Columbian architecture to the Bauhaus movement. He thinks generative tools will enable individuals to express themselves in entirely new ways, and that those trained in the arts will have an advantage in an increasingly visual culture. He told WTF's Christopher Good, quote, "The value of these new tools is speculative. You need to get far closer to the actual people who intend to use them." In this issue, they talked about the transformation of art schools, how to use AI in the classroom, and how to push boundaries and push past the limitations of those tools. He sees a future that is more visual. More images have been produced this year than in all of human history. But he worries about building the wrong tools could stifle some of the potential. He told Christopher, "The tools are being made, and then they're asking creatives afterwards if they like them. And I would argue that they are often building the wrong tools," he said. "I think whoever develops collaboratively with creatives is going to have a serious competitive advantages, along the lines of what Steve Jobs did by bringing in Johnny Ive. Now what happens if you want to pivot from one creative profession to another?" Author Cheryl Lulian Tan was the first chair in storytelling at Northwestern University's Medill School, named for alum and Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin. Martin was a journalism student there and wants to help journalists, like Tan herself, become authors, like Tan. And when she thinks about the future of creativity, she's thinking about how new voices will get heard and how the craft of writing must persist in an AI age. Now, Cheryl and I went to school together. We helped build early Medill websites in our classes, and we played a fair amount of pool. But in this issue, we talked about the changes in the publishing industry pre and post AI, the challenges of being an author or being a journalist, and why pivoting is good because journalists make good novelists because their reporting skills help you understand detail and character. While it's tough out there, she remains hopeful. She told me, quote, "Despite my fears for the future, we're actually in a time when you are hearing different voices bubble up. My hope is that a good story is a good story, and it will find its way into the world no matter what." A year ago, my family visited MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art in New York. My kids stopped at the first artwork, an AI art installation in the lobby called Unsupervised by Refik Anadol. They were transfixed by this piece, from Google's former first artist in residence. Anadol said the average viewer spends 38 minutes looking at this piece, and my kids were probably above average. But most spend less than a minute on average upstairs looking at works like Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. My kids use words like hypnotized. It really is something to behold. So what happens when you essentially create a new art form? You have to invent a lexicon to go alongside it. Anadol's 20-person studio team creates AI art, sure. But first, it captures billions of photos to train those custom AIs on. And the result is art that seems to live and move and dream at installations like the MoMA and the Sphere in Las Vegas. The MoMA piece was trained on MoMA's own collection, and he describes this media as data painting. When he thinks about the future of art, he's thinking about how new tools can help capture and visualize human memory. To say he's on the cutting edge of art is perhaps an understatement. He has behavioral science folks on staff, for instance. And he's experimented with using AI to create new scents. When he looks even further forward, he has to coin another new term. He says, quote, "I'm calling this generative reality." He told me, "I love the physical world. I love nature. I'm not trying to replace anything at all. If you're watching a movie, it's not real, but it feels real. We will create realities, and those realities will have multiple senses, and this will be a whole new imagination. Cinema will evolve, musical will evolve, opera will evolve. Every form of art will evolve. As AI-generated art becomes more prevalent, so do questions about its value and implications. Should it matter whether a human or an AI created a work? Stephanie Dinkins is the Kusama Endowed Professor of Art at Stony Brook University and a renowned artist focused on AI's intersection with social issues. She believes that while AI will change art, the ideas behind art matter more than the method or curation. She sees AI as an opportunity to push creative boundaries and produce better outcomes, especially for marginalized communities. She told Kate, "I don't think we can afford not to delve into AI and think about it because it's so intertwined in our world." She sees a lot of progress being made in terms of AI-related biases, but like Equinoke, thinks more can be done. She and Kate talked about the value of human art versus machine and physical versus digital art. Dinkin sees tensions there. She said, quote, "It's so hard to say where value lies. It feels to me that someone is always going to want to support at least some kind of art and feel like they have the market of something particular. But that uniqueness can now become something you lock away. Further," she said, "you can't define, or you definitely can't put into public digital space because then we all just clone it." She asks, do we start making things for black boxes just sit there in containers so that their beauty is not available? Or do we unleash the beauty, whether it's AI beauty, human beauty, hybrid, and consider that a way forward? As artificial intelligence tools have grown more capable, people's attitudes have soured on the content AI produce, raising important questions for creators about the technology. Not too long ago, excitement about AI-generated media was at a fever pitch, says Ipsos SVP Jamie Stenziano. But Ipsos's polling suggests that over the past year, people have grown touchier about the use of AI to produce film, music, and literature. These attitudes are by no means set in stone. They also vary by age and demographic, underscoring the importance of tailoring messaging to specific audiences. But generally, this data also supports the attitude that AI should be viewed as a tool, not as a marketing term, and the brand should first focus on its tangible benefits for audiences, not its value as a buzzword. Creators have a lot of choice when it comes to the platforms they create on. The platforms all have their strengths. When Snap's Alex Dow thinks about the future of creativity, he's thinking about all the different kinds of content creators can create, the channels they'll post it on, and the metrics they'll use to gauge its success. There's one metric he thinks is underrated: happiness. Here's how he's focused on bringing that to audiences, creators, and brands alike. He told me, quote, "Optimizing towards happiness and not just pure growth numbers and engagement metrics and likes is the future." We talked about a lot of things Snaps and other platforms are doing to foster connection, including Snap's cool Billie Eilish activation, which you can see more of in the issue. But he emphasized the need to double down on the social aspects of social media. He said, quote, "More and more folks want to find meaningful connections. They're looking for authenticity. They're looking for a place where they don't feel the typical societal pressures of social media." Brands and businesses are already using AI to help them create ads. But they should know that AI can also be used to assess campaigns that would otherwise go unevaluated and predict their performance before launch. When used in the correct context and backed by industry experience, these tools could offer brands a major competitive advantage, says Lisa Zielinski, an SVP in Ipsos's creative excellence practice. Put simply, AI still lacks the empathy and understanding that powers successful ads. Evaluating all content with AI alone will lead to ads that are not as empathetic or effective as those that have gone through a human insight process. While human feedback is still ideal, the cost and time of this process can be prohibitive for lower spend or lower risk assets like social media or digital advertising, meaning most of these assets go forward with no evaluation or data backing. Ipsos has developed an AI tool that can evaluate the effectiveness of a variety of video ads and can pinpoint key moments that are driving or detracting from their impact. Ipsos testing shows that predictions from this model can double the chance brands will run a high-performing ad, enabling them to coordinate more coherent campaigns and achieve the greatest return on investment for their media spend. One part of creativity we've touched on is creative as a noun, i.e. advertising creative. And when you think about ad creative, the future and AI, you have to start with ad agency Mischief, which exploded on the scene in 2020 with its deep-faked dictators campaign for Represent Us, showing Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un speaking English to warn Americans against election interference. It was the first use of artificial intelligence technology for a major TV campaign. While banned from airing, the effort went viral. Today, Mischief is the hottest ad shop in the world. But AI is igniting advertising. Don't expect it to take over creative work, says partner and ECD, Bianca Jimarez. She told Kate, "You can take some shortcuts, but I don't believe in using AI to create the idea." One recurring theme in this issue is that while AI will continue to do some lower-level creative and, of course, some rote tasks, but the higher levels of, quote, creativity are still going to be human-driven, at least for the foreseeable future. Now, whether everyone is right about that theme, or is more hopeful that we, because I should put myself in this bucket too, will have jobs in the near and long-term future, remains to be seen. But she told Kate, quote, "I'd go so far as to say with confidence that the increase of AI's prevalence in advertising will put a premium on human creativity." In advertising, creativity is the secret sauce that turns head and captures hearts. Ipsos's global ad testing data reveals that ads that break convention are over 20% more likely to command brand attention. But there's a catch. The most daring and disruptive ads can leave the average viewer scratching their head, taking sides, or simply shrugging, "Not for me." The elusive balance between bold originality and broad appeal keeps ad execs up at night, says SVP Rachel Rogers. She says, quote, "Creativity can get attention, but ads powered by creativity and empathy can turn that attention into a connection." Ipsos research shows that empathy can be triggered in the creative through three key dimensions: context, taking inspiration from real-life situations or cultural moments; tension, portraying an honest struggle that the brand has credibly paid off; and expectations, depicting or playing on people's expected behavior with the brand or product. Advertisers need to know what people expect before they can surprise them, and audiences need to relate to an ad they care about. And that's why an understanding of consumers and their context is non-negotiable for advertisers. It's only with the deep research on people, their emotions, and their attitudes that marketers can identify the specific themes that drive relatability and relevance. And now we turn to the tensions that are driving change in this space. And the future is always in tension, and we can measure those conditions today with forced choice questions. And we can then plot them in a classic 2x2 grid, which allows us to visualize where we are today, but also imagine the possible futures if those tensions shift over time, and how far they would have to get us to a different future. And the awesome thing about doing foresight in a market research firm is we can ask these questions today and then plot how they may or may not change over future. So tension one is about screen time versus caring whether AI makes content that we're scrolling through. And today we care, and we spend a lot of time on screens. So if this world persists, creators will use caution in how they use AI or risk alienating some of their audiences. But what if we start to care less, which, as I've been saying, certainly seems plausible? Well then, in this world, that opens a lot of potential for new forms of art and emerging creators using new tools for scale. We consume a lot of content, and we don't care how it's made. So that's where we stand on entertainment. But what about brand communications? Do we expect ads to be truthful? And will we consider companies using AI to generate ads to be smart or dishonest? At the moment, most of us expect ads are to be truthful, and we're on the border of how we view companies who would use AI to create those ads. But say we lose faith in advertising, which seems plausible given our diminishing faith in so many institutions. In this world, all bets are off. AI can create anything, and consumers don't have any faith or trust that something is real. So advertisers will have to double down on authenticity and trend building and trust building. But how? Well, to answer that, we turn to Matt Palmer, a consultant in Ipsos Strategy 3, who wrote our Future Jobs to be Done for this issue. Future Jobs to be Done is another tool we use to think about the future. It takes a traditional jobs to be done framework and spins that forward. So in that world, where AI and creative, not creativity, become more intertwined, there are jobs for different roles in that economy. Imagine a world where it's mandatory for personalized ads to denote both when the content was created by AI and what data of yours was used to train the model that created the campaign. Jobs in that world include: help me as a creative professional to develop compelling and impactful content. Help me as a consumer to understand the roles companies will hold in ensuring their communications are authentic. Again, help me as a consumer to understand how AI and AI-produced advertisements will be held accountable for claims referenced within. And help me as a consumer to find media and advertising sources I can rely on for accurate and unbiased information. So that brings us towards the end of our What the Future Creativity summer double blockbuster, huge Mongo, amazing issue of F. And, it is a ton of work to put these things together. And Kate and Christopher and all of the people who are involved in making this issue happen are putting this out there for free, for you to read the newsletter, which again, free monthly, and for you to come to these webinars. So why does Ipsos do all of this? Why does it fund all of this research? And the answer is that when you can step back, when you can take an hour over lunch, thank you, or do some reading, or go to a seminar, or hold a workshop, or do a Trends and Foresight engagement, always recommended. When you get to step back from thinking about your monthly goals and your quarterly business returns, you get to spend a little time thinking about the future and thinking about the trends and how they will impact your work. and put yourself in the shoes of one of your customers in 3 years or 5 or 10. And you can start to imagine the world they'll live in and the macro forces that will surround them and the kind of products and services they'll need that you should start innovating today, the kind of messages and stories you'll need to tell them about marketing those services, and their kind of customer experience and user experience they'll be looking for. So in short, when you imagine possible tomorrows, you ask better questions and do better research today. Now, we're coming into the summer months. We're kind of midway through now. It's after July 4th. And so our thoughts turn to summer vacations. And that brings us to our next issue of What the Future: Leisure. We are spending less time at work in the world, but we are not getting any more leisure time out of that. So we'll talk about a lot of those tensions, the ways people are spending time, how they can afford it, the way screens are impacting things, and the way climate change, as we see here, might impact the kind of things we have to wear when we go travel to places. It's going to be a great issue. We are dropping it at the end of July, and we will be back with another What the Future webinar then. So please stay tuned. Again, you can sign up for our newsletter. It is free and monthly. What the Future is always available to you, as is the entire data set of our Future of Creativity report at future.ipsos.com. So once again, thanks everybody for coming out. My name is Matt Carmichael. I am the editor of What the Future and your host today, and I will see you all in the future.